allowed to
Okay.
sit. Not allowed to sit in the dugout.
7 o'clock.
We did our part. I had my whole office, my wife.
Jim took our, this is dry cleaning.
Start the meeting with a prayer. Almighty God, we ask for your guidance and direction as we come together to meet. Grant us the strength to manage the challenges ahead and the wisdom to identify these as opportunities as we strive to serve the citizens of Crescent Springs. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, bro.
Get ready to
Come on. You get your pay docked.
roll call.
Matt Zeff.
Here.
Tom Bergamini.
Here.
Carter Dickerson.
Here.
Christy Arlinghouse.
Here.
Mike Daugherty.
Here.
Bob Miller.
Here.
Okay. Approval of minutes from September 12th, 2017 special meeting. Need a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the September 12th, 2017 special meeting.
Christie made a motion. We have a second.
I'll second.
Mike second. Roll call.
Tom Bergamini.
Yes.
Carter Dickerson.
Yes.
Christy Arlinghouse.
Yes.
Mike Daugherty.
Yes.
Bob Mueller.
Yes.
Matt Zeff.
Yes.
Approved unanimously. Approval of minutes from September 25th, 2017 special meeting minutes. That's what the first one said.
I'll move to approve
Roll call.
September
Wait,
25th.
we got
There
a
was no
problem.
special
There's
meeting.
not
There
two
was a
special.
The other
Oh,
was
we never
meeting.
approved.
There was
Okay.
because the meeting was Tuesday instead of Monday.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'll move to approve the September 25th special meeting.
Mike's made a motion. Have a second.
I'll second.
Matt second. Roll call.
Carter Dickerson.
Yes.
Christy Arlinghouse.
Yes.
Mike Daugherty.
Yes.
Bob Mueller.
Yes.
Matt Zeff.
Yes.
Tom Bergamini.
Present, not voting.
Okay. Next item, Fire Authority, Mike.
Nothing has changed since the caucus meeting. Our next meeting is next week. Nothing's happened in the last 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you. Finance meeting, Matt?
So I don't have any updated numbers to report from the August financials that I gave at the last meeting. So we're waiting for the close of books for September. So when I have those, I will report those out.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Public Works, Dewey.
Rieger has all of our black topping on the streets that we were going to do for this year done, except for Riverwatch, and they have the base coat down on Riverwatch. They're supposed to go up there tomorrow and start putting down the top layer, rolling it out. I had some concrete work done by them. It's all done. They have a few things to tidy up on it, some crack sealing and things like that, and that'll all be done. If you all noticed on Crescent Terrace, Amsterdam, from Crescent Springs Road, we have all the right-of-ways cut back so that you can see around all the corners and stuff and everything. We finished that up. We just had the garage doors serviced before winter gets here. We're working on a small drain down by Irene's down there that has been there probably 20-some years and it broke. So we're fixing it. We're working on fixing it. I got Phil's going around checking all of our street lights, make sure they're not out. And tomorrow we'll check them, see if there's any that are staying on, and we'll call all of those in. Halloween decorations are up at the park. We had a couple people called in for some signs. We took care of putting those up. We're out today cleaning the drains and leaves. Partially cleaned up the tree up on Crescent Point up there, fell down and Tom called in. We're going to be going up there when it dries up probably the end of this week and cutting back the right of way on Crescent Point up there. And Duke Energy was down on Ron Crescent Springs Road and they were replacing an existing pole down there. Other than that, we're in good shape.
Okay, thank you, Dewey. City Administrator Rip.
The only thing I have to report is back in 2009, we had an agreement with SD1 for them to take over our storm drains infrastructure. They did an audit back in 2009 of all the catch basins, underground drains. They also looked at some of the culvert pipes that go underneath the road in different locations, like for instance Rosewood, Euclid Avenue, and so forth. Back about 2 months ago, 3 months ago, I had a storm drain problem with a pipe that's on Euclid Avenue. It goes down to Eubanks Road, dumps into Dry Creek. We have a set of maps back when we made this agreement with them in 2009. It's almost like a firm map, which is a floodplain map, but it's a colored map. And in this map, it shows any pipes that are in green. The sanitation department is responsible for. If they're in yellow, they're private. If they're another color, they belong to the city. And that agreement, basically, what it states is that anything that's above ground, such as catch basin grates, cleaning of those grates, pipes that are above ground, belong to the city. Anything below ground is sanitation department's decision or problem. In the course of this evaluation of this culvert pipe that goes under Euclid Avenue, we had SD1 come out and looked at it. They said it was not their responsibility, it was ours. However, on our maps, it's highlighted in green, belongs to them. They said, what maps? When I showed them a set of maps, they just were in awe. They didn't know really, I guess, that we had them and that they existed. Supposedly, somewhere along the line, they have changed their policy and they don't honor those maps nowhere. And I said, well, that's the first that I've heard of that. So I gave a copy of the agreement and had the discussion with Mike, and I believe also Joe. And it was, in my opinion, I believe Joe or Mike's and Mike's, that we have an agreement with them that we signed in 2009. Unless they can prove otherwise, they're responsible to adhere to the maps. They have called, well, they agreed. We had to fix the culvert pipe on Euclid Avenue. They claim the map wasn't intended to take care of culvert pipes. However, it was in green, so in my opinion, they did. We had it fixed. They said they'd only pay 50% of it. It was $5,000, so we went ahead, we accepted it. So now they're coming to me. They want to meet with me at 2:30, and Mike is going to attend the meeting, and they're probably going to persuade or try to persuade me that, hey, we changed this and we need a new agreement and we don't honor these maps no more. And as far as I'm concerned, we had an agreement in 2009. They give us the maps. The maps are very clear, and that's what we should stay with and what we should stand with unless they can prove otherwise, and our legal counsel agrees with them, which he may or may not, depending on what they present. But I am meeting with them. I just wanted you to be aware that that's taking place.
So on the job that was completed, was the total job $5,000
Yes.
expense, and therefore they're saying we're going to give you $2,500?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what they
I would
did.
argue they owe us the other $2,500
Exactly.
too.
Well,
Yeah.
I do, but at the time, I didn't have time to
I'm
argue.
not disagreeing with you,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't accept the $2,500 until we say, give me the $5,000.
Right. Well, we're going to meet with them tomorrow at 2:30, and then we'll have that conversation.
Are they going around to other cities soliciting?
I don't know.
Individual agreement?
I don't know.
Other cities might not have the maps.
And weren't other cities part of that 2009 agreement?
Yes.
All of them were.
And so, probably hasn't come up in the mayor's group meeting yet, but
Yeah.
that's something I put on the agenda saying, hey, what's everybody know about this?
Well, I want to hear what they have to say, and then we'll take it from there. But
And they can't show any correspondence where they sent us an email saying
I
that
have
we've
not.
No, yeah.
nullified the agreement.
not to my knowledge.
Guess you'll find out tomorrow if they have
To
them.
give you an example, back on Squire Oaks, or Squire Hill, the lake that belongs to you and us and everybody, The pipe that goes underneath that was deteriorating. It actually goes under the roadway that dumps out into, lack of a better name, West Thorpe's Lake. They relined that whole pipe. It's a culvert pipe. It goes from one
So
watershed
again,
to the
precedent
next.
has been set, that they did that and paid for that, right?
They did that, they paid for that. They also put a new head wall on the West Thorpe side and everything.
Well, I don't care what they say about that lake. That lake handles storm.
Water.
Water.
It's a watershed.
It is not my lake, it is their lake.
Well, they say it belongs to everybody
Everybody.
that's a property owner.
Right, but I'm gonna build a dam and let them see where their water goes.
Right. But the water actually comes from Kramer Lane and up above the
Mm-hmm.
streets there, and it goes into her lake. And
It's
it
in my
goes from
lake.
there into Matt's lake.
No, it's not
I'm not
mine.
Nope.
So anyway, that's all I have to report.
Okay, thank you. Mayor's report, I don't have anything. Next item is old business, RFP for police service update. Bob?
All right. Guess I don't know. What's getting passed around is, I'll call it a top-line recap of what was contained in the proposals we received from Villa Hills, Park Hills, and Fort Mitchell, in that order, to the RFP that we closed a week or so ago. Villa Hills, Fort Mitchell, they both submitted 4-year plus 1 proposals, meaning there's an option year for a 5th year. Park Hills sort of came with a different approach. They were advocating or inquiring as to whether or not we would entertain the idea of a police authority. And it was a pretty open-ended proposal, as well as a proposal without a specified end date. So that's why I called it pretty much open-ended. I think their key interest was in locating the headquarters for their police department here as a way to offset the concerns about the geographic coverage that Park Hills model / police authority would entail. But beyond that, they did not respond to probably 90% or more of the RFP criteria. So their proposal really is not able to be scored in the same way that we intended, and that we will score Fort Mitchell and Villa Hills. One thing that we did see was that all of the models that were submitted or proposals that were submitted did include some form of cost recovery, and some were a combination of recovering both equipment and personnel costs, as well, and others were just recovering the equipment. But basically, we anticipated that from Fort Mitchell. Weren't really counting on Park Hills submitting a proposal, so that was one that we had to look in to see what it was they were proposing. And I would say that the difference between Villa Hills' offer earlier in the year and their current bid is the 71 grand in equipment or recapture or recovery costs that they proposed.
Is that 71 million or 71,000?
I'm sorry.
Thousand.
My bad.
Oh, it's-
Them all the way.
Okay.
Yeah. Proctor speak.
And bankers.
And banker speak. M is 1,000, 2 M's are a million. Megan changed a lot of the other stuff to K, so she,
For thousands.
I'm talking K.
So it's not a $71 million equipment bill. Similarly, Park Hills has recovery costs in there, as well as Fort Mitchell. Their figure includes, that 450 includes a $50,000 one-time, what I'll call carrying cost charge, that we would pay 1 month before the contract would start. We go live with their department, and think of it as a float, not a loan, but a payment to cover the operating cost to get started and until the money starts coming in from billing. They also said that that amount could be paid in a lump sum at the beginning of the contract term, or allocated over the balance of the term, be that 4 or 5 years. I think, if you look at page 2, this was an attempt to sort of pull out the raw numbers, and that's just what they are. They are simply raw numbers for these individual metrics. The actual scoring probably includes 15, 20 metrics-ish. So these will not be the basis on which any recommendation is made, but instead just a way for you to say, okay, how much are they going to charge us over 4 years of the deal? What's our year 1 cost? What's the yearly average? What is the annual increase that each of them have proposed? The additional POs are police officers, not purchase orders. The total POs is the total department strength once they add the additional POs to their existing number. They have all submitted schedules that they claim will cover our peak coverage. And yes, in answer to the question about startup costs.
Wasn't Erlanger's price $950 and then it was going to go down to $8 something after dispatch comes out? I'm trying to figure out how we got to 1.1 for 4 years when I thought their proposal was 900 and change going down to 800 and
It
change.
was $954, we were paying $125 for dispatch. That was not included in the $954.
In their proposal though, I believe it was because they were going to reduce it down to 800 and change because Matt brought up that they were going to reduce it by 110 when the number Matt was like 130 or something like that. Again, I'm ballparking.
From that,
I
don't remember.
So
We didn't sign that contract.
I understand it, but that was their last proposal.
We're comparing it to real dollars, not possible dollars.
Right, but also remember their last proposal also had penalties if we
I
left early. all that
understand,
stuff,
but we're also comparing it to possible dollars here too. So
No,
Okay.
I didn't think it was a valid comparison to say maybe we signed that contract.
Okay.
Maybe we don't.
That's your choice,
Well, I think it's the consensus of the committee.
right?
Agreed.
Right.
I think, as you look at, what is behind their numbers, it seems as if there is enough of a difference between the number of officers that people were adding and between their pay rates on average and in terms of range that, you can kind of see that if you look at the difference between the cheapest bid we could possibly hope to get, which is Villa Hills, and the most expensive, there didn't appear to be anything dramatically different between the offers when it came to the equipment that they were purchasing. I mean, everybody kind of buys the same stuff. It's within a range of cost. It's not like one agency's cars cost more than the other, dramatically different. On the fourth slide, we didn't necessarily anticipate that there would be a police authority proposed. I think a police authority was one of the options that, the committee was certainly open to and willing to explore. We looked at that a couple ways. One, could Crescent Springs, if you will, take the lead in establishing a new police authority, much like the Dixie Police Authority? Or, and I think this is still an option being pursued, could the city of Crescent Springs reinstitute its own police department? And I think as we looked at the Park Hills proposal, it seemed like, okay, this would allow us certain things. We would get those synergies and efficiencies that we think come from, combining services, combining operations. We would essentially, get to take advantage of someone else doing the work to set this up. We would be a customer, if you will, so that we would, save the investment. And the police authority structure, would give us a true legal voice in the operation of the police agency. Where today, we don't necessarily have that. If we said, well, we're not so much, thinking this way. I think we felt like if this was really something we wanted to pursue, we'd do it ourselves. It seemed as if we had the experience, the know-how, and the ability to pull it off. Why wouldn't we do it on our own if this is truly the direction we wanted to go? We worried that, with the time left, we might not have all that much room to do all the groundwork that's needed to establish police authority, again, from the experience we've been through. And one of the comments that we heard, it was really sort of an offhanded comment, was the Park Hills charge to Bromley for providing police service has not increased in the last, I thought he said 5 years, but I didn't think they were providing service that long. But he made the comment, and I thought, well, that to me starts to say, okay, who's subsidizing who, and would we be stepping into that, or at least stepping into something where the risk of, being asked to support it in the future at a greater level exists. May not happen, but it's not a risk we bear today. I think the committee met today, and then we'll reconnect on Friday. And we had just very preliminary conversations about the early read on the proposals, but also about the police authority concept. And it felt like, and I'll let the rest of the folks speak to this if they like, this just didn't feel like a viable option at the time for primarily time reasons, but also sort of practicality. If we really thought this was the best way to go, I have a feeling we would be proffering that idea ourselves. Something that I'll give Andy Schreiberg from Fort Mitchell, the chief over there, credit for. He kind of turned the staffing model in a different direction and said, okay, we've all kind of looked at activity between the cities that would be participating. And depending on the data you get from Canton County, you have emergency calls, non-emergency, you have what I'll call dispatch calls, so you get that from the county, dispatch or Erlanger dispatch in the case today. But then you also have sort of non-dispatched activities. So either the officer initiates it or the request comes through the dispatch, but it's not a police, call it action type of dispatch. And so there was some wiggle room in, okay, how many calls do we really have? The other way to look at staffing is based on population, and that's where Fort Mitchell came to us and said, look, if you put any credence in the FBI and state methodology for allocating staffing, here's kind of the guidelines. And what you see on slide 5 is a grid that says the standard, according to the FBI, per 1,000 population is 2.4 police officers per 1,000. I would think of this as the ideal case, almost like if money were sort of no object, but it's something to shoot for. The Northern Kentucky average is about 1.9, and so looking left to right in that grid, all we did was say, okay, if we hold the people that will bid on the service for Crescent Springs just to the Northern Kentucky average, that felt more fair than holding them to a national average. And that equates to the numbers you see in row 2 for a population of 12,000, which coincidentally is the combined population of both Villa Hills and Crescent Springs, as well as Crescent Springs and Fort Mitchell. Recognizing there's different demographics and makeup of those two geographic areas, still, nonetheless, it's same population. And so what you do is just simply do the math and say, okay, how many officers does that equate to if you're using these standards? Excuse me. So we just took it down below that and said, okay, how many officers are the agencies that bid proposing? You just see the raw math there, Villa Hills, Park Hills, and Fort Mitchell. Incremental 5, 10, and 6 to their current staff. And then again, you just reverse the math and say, okay, how does that equate to or compare to the national average? Or I'm sorry, the regional average, or national if you want to compare it to that. I won't go into a ton of detail or I'll see if folks have any questions on 6, 7, or 8. I just took the individual proposals and made a few comments about them. I thought Villa Hills and Fort Mitchell both submitted very well prepared proposals. You could tell they put some thought into this and effort. The thing that stood out right away with Villa Hills is they are committing to put a canine unit on the street at no additional cost to the city. Among other questions that we have that Megan's going to follow up with the agencies on, our question back to Villa Hills is that a 6th officer that you would be adding in order to provide that canine service, or is your intent to just take one of your existing officers and send them to training, to be a Canaan officer. That has implications, obviously, for scoring of their bid versus, what we thought today. I mentioned the change from the April proposal. They provide the least incremental officers to cover the city. And I'll tell you, this is the common thread through all of them. CERS is just something we're going to have to negotiate. I think in preparing their bids, they were at something of a disadvantage because they're conservative in the sense we want to overestimate what the hurt may be, but by default then it increases their cost relative to the people they're competing against. So I would give them a little bit of leeway, all the agencies, well, Fort Mitchell and Villa Hills, give them a little bit of leeway in terms of how they were trying to project the CERS impact. The perception is it'll go up, it's just by how much. Park Hills, like I said, I think I kind of went through that. We are quite simply unable to do an adequate scoring job on their response. There just isn't enough information.